Hey fam, welcome back to another segment of It's Getting Real, a place where we explore the stories behind tragic crimes. Today's story left me not knowing how to feel. I don't know what my verdict would be had I been one of the jurors in that courtroom. I looked up some things, watched the documentary on 48 Hours, and I'm torn. I'm going to leave the link in the description section because I'm interested in knowing what it is that you're thinking. So today we're going to be talking about the case of Benjamin Elliott, who at the time of the crime was 17 years old in Houston, Texas. Now, Benjamin took the life of his twin sister, Megan Elliott, and that's where it gets odd. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory because Megan and Benjamin were described as very close, loving each other, being labeled as inseparable. They went to the same school, shared some of the same friends, enjoyed some of the same things. They looked out for each other. So how, if these two were so close, does something so tragic, so unthinkable happen between two people who shared the same DNA? Benjamin and Megan Elliott were fraternal twins born to Kathy and Michael Elliott. Now, Megan is described as sweet and sensitive and incredibly kind, a little introverted, very artistic. She loved writing, painting, and drawing. As a teen, she was diagnosed with autism, but that did not stop her. The older she got, the more her mother said that she found her voice. She even went on to create a YouTube channel to showcase her art. She was coming into her own. Then we have her brother, Ben, on the other hand, who was described as soft-spoken, smart, funny, curious, a little analytical, a little nerdy. He loved building things and helping people. Their mother, Kathy, said that they were each other's person, that they were best friends, that Megan loved Ben and looked up to Ben. They were the kind of twins who at 17 years old still enjoyed each other's company. They shared inside jokes and they looked out for each other. There's nothing odd there. I would expect that, right? The family lived in a quiet neighborhood in Houston, Texas. They weren't the kind of family that ever drew attention to themselves. They blended in. They had an older daughter that was already off and in college, and their twins would soon be furthering their education as well because at the time they were seniors. That's why when the news broke that Ben had stabbed his twin sister to death in the middle of the night, no one could comprehend it. And I myself am still struggling with this story. So let me tell you a little bit more. It happened on September 29th, 2021. Benjamin and his father had been up late at night playing Survive the Nights for a few hours that night. His father gifted him with a knife that was similar to one that they saw while playing the video game. Nothing too odd there. All is well. His father had a whole bunch of knives. They did a lot of camping. So what is it to give his son a knife? Nothing. He's thinking nothing of it at the time. Then around 4:40 in the morning, 911 receives a call from Benjamin Elliott. Now, I would suggest for you all, because I was going to play it up here, but his voice is so low, it's kind of hard to hear it. But I would say if you get an opportunity to listen to the 911 call, because for me, that's where I'm a little perplexed, because I don't understand why he didn't yell out for his parents before he called 911. And I also don't understand why he was speaking so low on the phone when he first started the call. Now, I get there's a possibility he was in shock. And I also understand that people react differently to different things. But that's one thing that I found myself questioning, which is why, while listening to this story, I want you to think about what you would probably do if you were one of the jurors. So when he picks up the phone, his voice is shaking and he says, "I just killed my sister." The dispatcher is trying to get him to let her know what happened. And Benjamin says, "I thought I was dreaming." He says he woke up, found a knife in his hand, and his twin sister is bleeding in front of him. He's asked if his sister is still breathing. The answer, I believe, was barely. So he's told to wake up his parents and start compressions. So you hear him yelling for his parents on the phone. Now, Kathy and Michael were asleep in the house when the crime happened. They are awakened to Benjamin yelling for them. Kathy later testified that she heard her son shouting that he killed Megan. At first, she thought it was a dream, that there was no way that her sweet, gentle son could hurt anyone, especially his twin. But then, when she ran into Megan's room, she saw the unthinkable. She saw their daughter lying there, bleeding, and their son in shock, holding the phone. The parents were said to be hysterical, but on certain clips, I don't really feel like they were. I think that they, more than anything, were in shock as well, because who wouldn't be when you walk into this room and you see your daughter lying there bleeding and your son standing over her? Like, I think it was a legitimate shock. Kathy said later on that she felt like her whole world ended that night, that she lost both of them in an instant, and she did, because this was a crime. Whether he meant to do it or not, it was a crime. And as a result of that, there's going to be some repercussion for it. Not only that, it's going to change him as well, because his sister is no longer here because of something that he did. One child was gone forever, and the other would never be the same. When police arrived, Ben was calm, but clearly in shock. They enter the home and they see that Ben is covered in blood, trying to desperately help his sister. He was attempting to perform CPR. Officers note that he was cooperative, he was confused, and he kept repeating that he did not know what happened. He did not know why it happened. And then it went from that to, "I didn't mean to do it. I thought I was dreaming." This is scary to me, because we all may know someone who sleepwalks, right? But committing murder while doing so is something different. I personally have been known to sleepwalk. When I was younger, it was something that I apparently did very, very often, to the point where my mother even had recorded me moving furniture around in my bedroom. Now, I was a lot younger when this happened, and it normally happened like if I had a lot going on. For example, one of the instances when I was moving my furniture was because the next day was going to be the first day of the school year. I think I was in middle school back when that happened. And it's very concerning when you think like, oh my goodness, somebody may, be capable, as young as I was, of moving furniture. So when I hear this, I think of things like that. Like, there is very much so a possibility that people are known to do some things while sleepwalking. But as I said, murder is something different. So as I said, Benjamin is performing CPR and responders take over. But at that point, Megan had already passed away. It would later be discovered that she had 2 stab wounds to her neck. One of them, if I recall, was 4 inches deep enough to end up hitting her carotid artery, which is a major artery. He was taken into custody on the spot. But as he's in there waiting in the room, he is not told about the condition of his sister until several hours later. The parents aren't even told. You see them on video asking if they can see their daughter, and police are not allowing them to see their daughter. They even want to can you take a picture so we can see her or something, and they're not willing to do any of those things. They are blocking the parents from seeing her, more than likely because at that point she had already passed. So Benjamin told the officers that he'd woken up standing over his sister's bed with a knife in his hand, and he does not remember entering her room. He just remembers being trapped in this nightmare that became real in that moment. When he is told that his sister didn't make it, From what I saw on the video, he had no major reaction. And that is one of the things that I struggle with also, because one of the problems when it comes to things like this is people react differently. Everyone doesn't automatically break down crying. Everyone isn't automatically expressive. And in seeing him on some interviews, some little clips that I saw here and there, as well as seeing his parents, he seems to be more of a stoic individual. So what may have a bigger reaction for someone like you or I may not be what it is for him. And he could have also still been in shock because it had been several hours. He didn't really get a lot of sleep at that point. There was a lot going on there. Either way, Benjamin Elliott is charged with the first-degree murder of his sister. So the investigation begins, and detectives begin putting different things together. And one question, seems to be on everyone's mind, seems to be at the forefront of the investigation, which is why. Because as I said earlier, these two individuals got along. These siblings love one another. These siblings didn't have any major arguments or things of that nature. There was no sign of that. There was no evidence of anger or abuse or any type of motive at all. They looked through phones and computers, and Megan's phone was untouched. There were no texts or calls suggesting that she and her brother had been fighting. They did the same thing with his, and they didn't see anything like that either. It looked like a normal night. Based on their technology, it seemed like everything was normal until it wasn't. Investigators noticed something strange about Benjamin's statement because he said he thought that he was sleepwalking. Apparently, Ben had a history of sleep disturbances. His oldest sister recalled an instance where she found him sleepwalking in her room when he was around the age of 10. He did this as well on other occasions, walking in on people who were in the bathroom. He had been known to talk and move around and even stand up in his sleep. It wasn't frequent, but it happened. That led to his defense team bringing in a sleep expert. Now, that sleep expert, was Dr. Gerald Simmons, and he conducted various tests, hooking up different leads and camera monitors and different equipment to measure brain waves and other things of that nature, and to watch him as he slept. Now, one of the things that he noticed is that he had some type of sleep apnea that literally would sometimes startle him in his sleep. In the test, he also found that he dropped into what they're calling a slow wave, which I'm assuming is a deeper type of sleep. Correct me down below. And he did it quickly, faster than what normally happens, which is why they believe that it could have very well been that you may have seen him texting on his phone at 3-something in the morning and then making this call at 4-something. Like it's very possible for him to have fallen asleep so quickly afterwards because he naturally falls asleep quickly. So Dr. Simmons, based on his findings, feels that Benjamin has a sleep disorder that could cause violent behavior during sleep. It's called homicidal somnambulism. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. SOMNAMBULISM. It's a rare but documented condition where someone commits an act of violence while sleepwalking with no awareness or intent. Now, when it comes to labeling something as murder, there is supposed to be some intent. They are saying there was no intent. Now, I know it sounds unbelievable. And I'll be honest, when I first heard it, I thought, okay, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. But then I remember cases like Kenneth Parks in 1987, the Canadian man who killed his mother-in-law while sleepwalking and was later acquitted. Or Scott Slater, who murdered his wife when he stabbed her over a dozen of times. And in that case, he was found guilty. So there are possibilities of this happening, but it's rare. Not impossible, but rare. Prosecutors, on the other hand, they're not trying to hear about the possibilities, okay? They don't buy it. They said that this wasn't sleepwalking, that this was clearly murder. They pointed out that Megan was not stabbed once, but she was stabbed twice. They argued that the nature of her wounds showed control and precision and not a random flailing. And they questioned the idea that someone could get out of bed, walk across the house, grab a knife, enter another person's room, and then stab them, all without waking up. I once again am torn. Y'all know I'm gonna tell y'all my opinion when I do these things. I'm torn. I'm really, really torn. And the reason why I'm torn is because I thought about a month ago while I was in the living room watching television with my boo, and he had fallen asleep. And I know him enough to know that if he stays on the couch too long, he is not going to get off of the couch and go upstairs and go to bed. So I wake him up. I hadn't planned on going to sleep yet. It was early. I wake him up and I tell him to go to bed. Now, to my knowledge, he's awake. He gets up. I'm in the middle of watching TV and he turns off the TV. And I'm annoyed because, excuse me, why are you turning off the TV? I'm watching it. He proceeds to say, I'm looking at this, ma'am. Give me a moment, ma'am. He's calling me, ma'am. Why are you calling me ma'am? Because he was still asleep. He proceeds to disconnect the TV. Y'all, I'm not making this up. He's disconnecting the TV, adjusting different wires, explaining to me with whatever techie terms that he knows that I don't know, what's going on with the television and why the signal is messed up, even though the signal was never messed up. And he's moving the stuff around and I'm like, okay. And he's like, just give me a moment, ma'am. Just give me a moment, ma'am. He does whatever he has to do. He turns back the TV on and it's working. It was never broken, but it's working. And he proceeds to then say, have a nice day, ma'am. And he goes up the stairs and gets in bed. Now I'm cracking up because I'm realizing that this man doesn't even know what's going on. I walk up the stairs and he is, when I say knocked out, it wasn't even 30 seconds. I was following behind him, knocked out in the bed to the point where he started snoring, all in a matter of minutes from the time that I woke him up to the time that he's upstairs snoring. With that being said, the next morning I was like, boo, do you remember this? And he's like, I didn't do that. Yes, you did. He says, man, I haven't sleepwalked in a long time. I've known this man for years. I did not even know that he sleepwalked. My point is, it's possible to sleepwalk. It's possible to do a whole bunch of things while sleepwalking. So once again, as somebody who may have had to be a juror for this, these are all the things that's going on in my mind. Tell me what's going on in yours. My question to you is, do you think Benjamin was asleep? That's the question I want to know. The answer I want to know to the question, do you think he was asleep? So the defense says Benjamin had no motive, no history of aggression, and no memory of the event. He was the one who called 911. He was the one who stayed on the phone. He was the one who tried to save his sister, Megan. Why would he do all of this if it were intentional? I question that too, but it wouldn't be the first time that someone has committed a murder and try to act like they had no part in it by doing that, right? As I said earlier, the knife was a gift. His father had given it to him a couple hours before, a survival style knife, and he had it on his nightstand. He did not remember picking it up. Investigators pulled the phone data. They found that Ben's phone was active until around 3:30 a.m. Then there was about a gap of about 24 minutes before he made that 911 call. The gap, prosecutors said, could have been when the attack happened, but still nothing is adding up. There are no clear signs of premeditation. There is no drugs in his system, no alcohols in his system. It's just a house that at this point is full of confusion. So as I said, he's arrested. A couple of years go by, and we fast forward to 2025 when the trial begins. Now, Benjamin was charged with murder. He, at this point, is around 20 years old, might be 21 because right now he's 21. So we're going to say he's in his early 20s. In court, there were times where he looked somber. His parents sat behind him on his side every single day, supporting him even after the loss of their daughter. I would hope that if the roles were reversed, that I would be able to support my loved one. But imagine sitting in a courtroom watching your child be on trial for killing another child of yours. I do not know how the parents survived that. I do not know how they sat in that courtroom and listened to the various testimonies and things of that nature of how their daughter was unalived and still were able to support their son. During the trial, both sides presented their experts. The defense sleep specialist testified for over 4 hours that Benjamin's actions were consistent with sleepwalking. The prosecution's expert disagreed, saying that the movements and the aftermath showed too much awareness. The jury deliberated for hours. It was clear that they struggled because some reportedly believed that Benjamin did not mean to do it, and others thought he had to have known what he was doing in order to commit the crime. If I recall correctly, they said that it was at least 7 jurors that found him guilty while the others were on the fence. In the end, the jury ended up finding Benjamin Elliott guilty of felony murder, but not premeditated murder. That meant that they believed that he caused her death during an act that was reckless, but he did not have intent to kill. Now, the prosecution wanted him to get at least 40 years, while some of the jurors felt otherwise, and they didn't want him to have to do hard time. That in itself caused some issues because Benjamin Elliott himself said he doesn't understand why you would find him guilty of a crime and then want him to not have to do a lot of time. And I think it's because you killed your sister. Now, it may or may not have been, because I still don't know, unintentional, but she's no longer here because of something that you did. The verdict, of course, devastated the family. His parents cried as it was read. Kathy and Michael believe that Benjamin never meant to hurt their daughter, Megan. He, in the end, was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and he'll be eligible for parole in 2032. Now, Kathy and Michael say they were heartbroken, not just by their daughter Megan's death, but by how the prosecution portrayed their family. They felt misunderstood, even attacked, as if something dark had been hiding in their home. Here's the thing, we don't know. We don't know what had been going on. Now, their father was a stay-at-home dad and he didn't see anything, but you just unfortunately never know. Like, there are a lot of things that go on within families that don't come out until way after the fact. They said either way, it's not true. There's nothing dark about their family. Kathy described her family as a close, loving, and supportive family. She said that she refuses to believe that her son intentionally took her daughter Megan's life. During testimony, she broke down saying they were twins. They loved each other. I don't know how this could have happened. And honestly, I don't know how it could have happened either. Because sometimes in true crime, you can't point to motive. This is just tragedy. Everything destroyed in one night. This case raises such difficult questions to me. What do we do when someone causes harm, even takes a life, but truly may not have meant to do so? Should they serve time? Is it justice that they do, or is it mercy that they don't? This is something that I kind of struggle with. The science of sleepwalking is still a mystery. Most people who sleepwalk don't hurt anyone. I just told you of 2 examples with myself and my man where we didn't hurt anybody. But in extremely rare cases, the brain can act out of violent impulses while the conscious mind stays completely offline. It's horrifying and scary to think about. Whether you believe Ben was sleepwalking or not, it is clear that his family was destroyed by something that no one saw coming and that no one will ever fully understand. Today, Benjamin Elliott is serving his sentence in Texas. His parents still visit him. They've said that they forgive him, but the grief of losing Megan does not go away. Megan would have been the same age of her brother, probably in college, maybe pursuing her art, maybe living her life beside her brother, like they said that they would later on. It is heartbreaking to think about what was lost, not just her life, the bond that they shared, the person she could have been, the potential she may have had, the family that is now forever changed. If there's one thing that this story reminds me, it is that tragedy can happen in an instant, and sometimes there just aren't any clear answers. All I have to say at this point is rest in peace, Megan Elliott. You guys, let me know what you thought about this one, because here I am at the end of telling you all what I watched and the little bit that I dug up, and I still just don't know. Part of me feels like that I would have found him guilty, but part of me wonders if him serving 15 years gives him justice. Then there's another part of me that wonders if there was something else beneath the surface that at this point they still haven't discovered. I'm interested in knowing your thoughts. Until next time.